There we have it. It's the official start to the meeting. Excellent. Well, Joe, good to see you've arrived safely and long drive, but hopefully things went smoothly overall.
Going well. It's nice to see all you guys again.
Yes, good.
Auntie, you got back from camping. You didn't get eaten by a bear.
No, we were lucky enough to not get into a bear.
Didn't see too many wildlife? Or-
No, I mean, yes, we saw like deers, marmots.
Oh yeah, that's super good.
Yeah, and we actually saw, we were coming down one of the hikes. It was in one of the ski centers. We were right next to the chairs, and we saw a little wolf, like a puppy, running into us. And when he saw us, he turned back into the forest, and we kept walking. And at some point, I turned and I saw him crossing the path to get to the other side of the forest. So yeah, apparently he wanted to cross, and we were in the middle. And on the way down on the bus, there was actually an auto wolf and crossing the road.
Oh
Yeah.
Mama.
So yeah, that was my first time seeing a wolf.
Oh no way!
Nice.
Nice.
But we survived.
Good. Excellent. Well, let's maybe start with just a quick recap of birds. I know we chatted a little bit about that last week, but you weren't here last week. So
No, I
I
was-
would love to, why don't you kick that off?
Okay, yeah, I was reading the notes. I'm really glad that everyone enjoyed it. I don't know, I said it a lot of times, but yeah, I was really grateful that people was very energetic during the workshop, both during the sessions and both like hanging out. I really liked that. Yeah, they were really into getting to know each other and start working more together. I saw a lot of enthusiasm from like students, early career researchers, let's say, or people not heavily involved in the project, that really wanted to contribute and wanted more documentation on how to do it, to learn how to do it. So I don't know, it's very refreshing to hear that. And yeah, I kind of complain about the place and the weather we had. Yeah, it was really awesome, and I think we all agree that we deserve more time there. So yeah, hopefully in a couple of years we can organize like a 5-day event.
Ooh, that'd be good.
Great. I saw Leo was also interested in organizing something down in Brazil.
Yeah, Leo mentioned that. That would be awesome. Also, it's way cheaper for staying there and all those things considered. So that could open the door to even more people to join. That'll be interesting.
I want to go to that.
Yeah. Let's see, did anyone else get a chance to get some notes started up?
Yep. You're already up and running. Now where did they go?
Well, as far as announcements, yep, I'm back in Colorado. Another thing, I tagged 20 SimPEG 020. And that should be getting out and getting through. I think it's still disseminating the last I checked on it. It takes a while to build all the documentation, but everything seemed to be going well. It was uploaded and yeah.
Nice, Joe. Did you, as a part of that, get a chance to kind of capture the release process and just what the steps are?
Not yet, because I just changed it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think Santi probably saw that come in where I switched up to using the setup tools SCM version control instead of we were using bump version before. So it changes, it reduces a step. Now you just have to create the tag on GitHub and it releases and does everything. Instead of using like the command line interface to pump the version and then tag it and then push the tag and then creates another commit and then all this other, now we just get to tag it on GitHub. It's the same thing that we were doing for Discretize and GeoAnna.
Okay.
Yeah, the 020 looks like everything got published. Let's see if the documentation looks good.
It's already live.
Yep,
Okay.
there we go.
Ooh,
It looks better. There's no errors on it. Looks like all of Devin's regularization stuff made it in. It looks pretty nice.
Nice. And super getting started.
I was just gonna ask this. I just started that PR, so I see there's a whole bunch of new stuff. I need some documentation to follow.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's out. It's ready to go. Well, I think it still hasn't hit Conda Forge yet, but that usually takes a few minutes. It takes a little while, but it should be okay. I know there's now since there's a small issue that GeoAnna required UTM, but SimPEG also kind of required it, but I took care of that already a while ago. So might have to change the dependencies on Conda Forge list, but that should be it. Should be all okay. Well, speaking of Devin.
Good. Yes.
Other than that, I didn't know. It's like
Yeah,
any
I was with
announcements?
Tigo right beforehand and got caught yapping.
Any other sorts of announcements related stuff from anyone?
I don't know about pressing, but we have things to share or whatever.
All right. I think one of the things that came out of BERS, I think would be great to think through is also putting just a bit of documentation down with pull requests and really thinking about what we can do to streamline that and to be bringing in things faster. And if we see something, and if it is an improvement, to start to get stuff in and worry about iterating later, is I think heard a bit of feedback from folks. We've heard this before too, that if when that process stalls or slows down with lots of revision requests, it does dampen sort of enthusiasm. And so if there's things we can do to accelerate that, while still capturing the things that we want to improve, but perhaps doing that in an issue or something like that, so that we can fix things up after the fact. I think, yeah, if there's things we can do to be accelerating that process, that's something I'd be really excited to see.
Yeah. I mean, there's a difference of like if there's certainly smaller pull requests, they're easy to come in faster, right? And it's just the ones that are really large that have a lot of changes, that have new additions and stuff, that we still need to be careful about bringing them in.
Yeah.
Like we can just bring them in and then say we'll fix it later, because
Yeah.
we won't fix it later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I think that's fair. But also, if there are things though, like if we can perhaps think about a balance of, if there are some things that we recognize that would be nice to improve, but maybe it isn't critical, if we can perhaps tease apart issues versus what's essential for a PR.
I would like to see us make a little bit more use of at least the templates that we already have out there for the pull request templates, just to keep track of where people are at on some pull requests, because I see people come in and I see people take that and then just delete all of it, and it gives no sense of where things are. So I think I've seen that a couple of times with Devin on your pull requests, that just you deleted all the template stuff that pops up right away. So it doesn't really give a sense of where you're at in the pull request. I would like to see us make use of that more often than we do, especially for people new contributors. Might be able to point them to a few more guides within that templates, but we are still not making very good use of them.
All right, then do we have updates from folks? I see John's already got his name in the,
Well, I've been promising this for a while. I finally got it in. Well, I've started the PR. Yeah, I followed the template there, so I'm just gonna have to make some tests. And, yeah, a few comments, Joe, I'll just have to just to see what you want to do with it. So to make it work, there was in the meta simulation, there's something like a line that says if persists or something, or, where was it? Oh, no, it was like a setting, looking for true or false. And for some reason with the frequency domain and the natural source, it wasn't getting triggered. So then the model wouldn't be assigned to each sub simulation. It wasn't doing the mapping. But yeah, I'll tag you in the PR there and you can take a look at it.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, other than that, it's pretty small PR and scope of things. I just added the get J function, the get JTJ, and I added another function called compute J. It's carried over from what Dom and I had from the DAS stuff. Yeah, hopefully getting that in soon.
From my end, I did a little bit of work on the SimPEG website. One example is that there was some link to the computing guidelines, and that link was pretty old. Yeah, it was pointing to a master branch, which I don't know how old it's with date.
Oh, yeah.
And it was also pointing to contributing to a RST file. And we are using now Markdown file for that. So yeah, just change the link. And the other thing I noticed was that we currently have the simpeg.github.io repo, which is the actual content of the website, but there's also a website repo. So it was confusing which one is actually the sources for the website. So I asked, I opened an issue to archive that old one, the website one. And yeah, Rowan already did that, but meanwhile, he noticed that there is some content from the old blog in there. So maybe in the future, we want to recover that content and publish it again. Yeah. Trying to follow up the little things I've been doing in the workshop regarding contributing guidelines. So yeah.
I'm trying my best to also be taking notes because people read our notes, which is everything that came out of the
Trying
meeting.
to get to the latest one.
That's fair, awesome, cool. Cool.
Yeah, I guess
To go next.
I can. Yeah, so playing around with, we're trying to extract the tutorials out of the SimPEG code base. And then augment them. And so we're going to build that with Mist, apparently. It's sort of an improved Jupyter book type thing from what I understand. So yeah, I've been able to get Mist up and running, move some of those tutorial Python notebooks out and build a test website for that locally. So it's actually pretty straightforward. You can build it really similarly to how you build a Jupyter book. You can also make a talk file YAML and you can customize stuff in there. So yeah, that seems to be working pretty well. And then I've also been playing around with this Gmesh stuff to make a fancy mesh to try basically EM simulations on a tetrahedral mesh. So that is a work in progress, but I think I've learned a lot about how Gmesh sets things up, and I may be able to turn my IPython notebook into sort of a tutorial and post that somewhere. So if anyone else in the group is trying to design a mesh, you know, discretizing around their transmitter loops or certain structures, we have a bit of a customized way to discretize those particular objects that we tend to be interested in. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
You're working off the that examples I was showing you.
Yeah, I built it from that, and then being able to go in and customize things a little bit. More, and there's just some like subtlety in terms of what are you actually doing, you know, you're kind of putting points in a model, but then you also have to add them to the mesh, and there's just kind of some overarching concepts that I wasn't exactly sure where to, it wasn't like explicitly given to me, I had to sort of trial and error, but yeah, it makes sense for the most part now.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I imagine it'll be nice to get the tutorials out of the documentation. Like it just takes so long. The other thing that I was meaning to create a issue on this, and that I really want to work towards getting a lot of the useless items that are in the namespace, as in like useless as far as a user is concerned. I want to move a lot of them to hidden variables, like things like, oh, the simulation.mcc or mcci. Like there's a lot of things there that most people have no, like there's no use exposing them to the end user.
Oh, sorry, like the physical property matrices.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So it'd be very helpful. And actually that would save a lot of time on building the documentation too, because it has to build pages for each of those things right now. And it takes a while.
Yeah, I mean, it would still be useful to have sufficient documentation for some of those things, just for a developer. But it doesn't have to render on the website nice and pretty, but it should be, some of those hidden functions are kind of like one line explanation of what it is, but they're a little more complicated than several lines of code. So it's nice if we do describe some of the things that are more complicated.
Capture, so Sagi started a like tutorial for developers at BERS, like how to create a new simulation. Did he link to that, or did we capture that in some way? Because that would be.
He made it was on a GitHub on a sim. He actually made it as a PR or a repository on the SimPEG.
Awesome.
It made me realize that I think we need to change where solvers are defaulted to, because not every simulation needs a solver. It's like a lot of the linear simulations don't need solvers, and right now everything gets a solver from the base simulation on SimPEG.
That's fair.
Whereas it might be more suited to be attached to the base PDE solver or something, or simulation. Yeah, I noticed that because I was looking at how he was creating a new simulation. He's like, oh, I needed to set solver equals to none, and that's not very intuitive for someone using it, like to create a new simulation on their own.
Yeah, but that's a nice thing for us to capture, and we can.
Yep, it's definitely useful to see it come in and see something like that, because it also, like, not only does it, you know, it's a great thing for people to look at, but it also is like allows us to look at them and be like, oh wait, I know we have to do it this way, but it doesn't make sense that we have to do it this way.
Yeah.
Be down typing away on.
Yeah, I submitted a very brief review for you, John, on the FEM. Glad to see this coming along, and nothing else.
Thanks. Joe, you have any other? Well, I guess we talked about the.
Yeah, I got SimPEG out. I got the. I have it using setup tools SCN now to make sure to report the version back on installation. Yeah, it seems like everything's deploying properly for version 0.20.
Nice.
Yeah. Other than that, Dom, if you get a chance, I'd love you to look through that distributed meta simulation thing and see if you could take it for a spin at some point to see if it breaks or fails for you.
11.99.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. I will request myself. Speaking of versions, so do we have a list of things? Where is your PR for 0.20?
Do we have a list of everything that went into it? Do we have a list of?
Yeah, how does it work for in terms of knowing what issues were linked to 0.20? And because we abandoned the dev branch, so we can't have no PR for main, right? It's going straight to main somehow.
Yeah, so generally we create a like a staging thing where we add release notes and capture that sort of information about everything that was happened from the last tag. And that goes into the release notes, and then it's also part on. So if you click on the release on the GitHub website, like there's the releases and there's version 0.20 on the right hand side there. If you click on that, you'll also see all the PRs that went into the last one as well. But on the documentation, there's release notes right away. I did not. I will fix that. Forgot to add the 0.20 to the to the table of contents on that thing, but I can fix that pretty quickly. Yeah, there's lists of all that stuff up there.
That's good. Isn't it a bit dangerous though that I see that you you added a class in the NNet, like we're doing stuff that is not strictly related to versioning?
A little bit. It's making sure the documentation builds properly. There's catching a few small errors in the documentation build process that were not caught before.
Okay. And then you tag once this is merged.
Yep, once it's merged, we tag, bring it in.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly just for updating the documentation to make sure that everything is captured in that pull request.
Cool. Well, congrats. 0.20. And do we have a plan for what's 21?
Not yet. We'll work on it.
Like we're creating lists, like a to-do list for 21?
Well, as we go forward, we'll create we can work with, I think with the GitHub
projects.
Yeah, probably with projects and see where we're at and like use it to keep track of things that we want to get in for 0.21.
Yeah, and tag the issues and all that stuff, right? Yeah.
It'll be definitely more helpful as we're more spread out, and since I'm down here.
Yeah, right.
Is that what you've been using in Fadiendo's projects, or how do you track releases or envision tracking releases?
Yeah, so for releases, if I usually go to milestones. So then if there's an issue of pull request that I really want to be on that particular release, I just add that milestone to that repo, to that issue or PR. But yeah, we've been discussing about trying out the projects. But basically mostly for trying to group stuff together into different projects, like, okay, working on form modeling, so include several issues related to that project, or working with like FFT filters and transformations, that's another project and issues to that. But for versions, I usually go with milestones. It's really easy then to say, okay, I really want to make the release, what is needed to be done before that, and you have a list of those stuff.
That sounds good.
How are the milestone used, Santi? Like, how do you filter on Git milestones? I never use them.
I think we are frozen. Okay, done.
We're breaking, sorry. How are milestones used? I never used milestones in GitHub, so how are you filtering with them? Like, how
So
are to use them? Yeah.
Okay, see, if you
Do
go
you
to
wanna
issue,
share your
yeah, I can share my screen. Let me see if I can find it. Going from the one, for example. Let's
'Cause I
see.
think projects are a bit more. There's more to them.
Yeah, project is more like Canvan stuff, yeah.
I know we've tried to use some projects before that kind of,
We've tried out using projects with varying degrees of success, and then in the end, people are just doing it based on what's in the pull request. They're never taking the time to go find the pieces of the project and move them to various stages of completion.
So, for example, I think if you go here to milestones, I have several ones. If you go to the milestone, actually, you can create a new one. So let's say I want something for version 0.8, let's say, of Harmonica. I can put a due date. I usually don't put a description if you want. And then when you go to your issues, let's say I want this one to be in the next one, you just put like here and select the milestone you wanted. And then if you go to the, oh, sorry. If you go to the issues, then to the whole list, you can filter by milestone. So if I'm about to release 0.6, I can just click here and say, okay, what needed to be done? In this case, nothing.
Nice.
Let me show you another one. Yeah, for 0.7, this is 4 things.
Nice.
so
Looks
then
light enough.
we kind of, we keep track of things we want to be in the 0.21 in an issue and then assign that issue to the milestone.
Or you just create a milestone for the release and then just tag the issues that you want to be a part of that. Is that? correct
Yeah, so
understanding?
we usually have one issue. We try to avoid like huge, like one issue that has a lot of stuff in there. Just put simple stuff that can be solved in a single PR.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, tag all those issues under one milestone.
okay. So the milestone just has the description. We don't need like a meta issue that tracks the,
So in the milestone, we have the description of these are the things that I want to release in
okay,
X version.
cool.
But that's it. You're not going to describe. I mean, you could, but
That's the point of the issue.
yeah, exactly. If you start describing on the milestone and on the issue.
Mhm.
And also it's really easy to move things from one milestone to another one. So if you like go to the list and decide, okay, now I don't have time to do this, I really want to make the release because X reason, I can just move this to another milestone. Yeah.
And I guess the advantage of project is that we can keep track of what's under review, what's under dev, all that stuff. But then as Devin said, we have to be diligent to be using it, otherwise it's too much for what we want. So I guess we should have a meeting and decide what's on 21, right? Which issues, all the bugs, fix bugs first, new features, and then just scope it out next 6 months type of thing. When is our cycle? How often do we want to release? You know, that would be a good thing to do often. Yeah,
I would like to release more often than I've been able to.
like a quarter, every
Yeah.
quarter or something.
Probably aim for about every quarter. But I still don't, so. Like I'm trying to see how this, like the milestones are used for forward-looking things, as in like, oh, we want to have these things be a part of the next research, or a part of the next release, when there's no like pull request or issue for it yet.
Well, I mean, it's easy to just assign existing issues to the current, you create all your milestone like 21, 22, 23, and then we say every quarter, and then we just tag like this is top priority, like move it to,
Mhm.
and then we fill it up like, okay, that's enough items for one release, and then the rest can go down to the next one.
So then the individual items are handled in issues, and then the milestone keeps track of them. So we just need to create an issue for each of like kind of the big picture things that we're bringing in.
I think so. Yeah. Oh, I see. Because technically milestones could be just a sub group of issues for one big topic, not just necessarily a release, the way you mean?
Yeah.
Is that more of a project then, though?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Like,
Whatever you want.
Yeah, I guess to me, what I like about this as a starting point is like we haven't had a ton of structure in the past. This seems like a lightweight amount of structure to start with, is we have issues and pull requests and we tag them with milestones. And I mean, we might want to have sort of another place where we have a meta conversation or perhaps grouping issues or things like that. But I think for now we're going from like very minimal structure. I would be inclined to say, let's introduce
I
kind
like
of
this
a
next one.
amount for now, and then
Yeah.
we'll build as we need to.
One thing we could do is create an issue like the one you mentioned, something like a meta issue with like just ideas, like broad ideas, and you can list stuff in GitHub. And if you have this list, they create like this button
Oh.
to convert to issue.
That's cool.
So you can list stuff like very broadly, and
Yeah.
when you want to actually describe what is needed to be done, just hit that button and create the issue for it.
Nice.
And I think it's linked, so when you close the issue, it automatically checks
It's a
out.
check mark, yeah. I did like that check mark, making those. Like the list of it, and it's easy to keep track.
And so that issue would be tagged to the milestone, but there's clearly no PR associated with it. It's just a lister of all the smaller issues, right? If I
Yeah,
understand. That sounds good. Sounds great. And right now we don't have any way to quantify how many issues we can tackle, like, because we're not pointing, we're not creating like a ranking or point system for those, but I guess it'll come over time. It's always different, but we can eyeball, maybe do that next meeting if you guys agree. We do just a release 21 brainstorm of like what needs to come in, what we want for next quarter.
That sounds good. And yeah, we can come up, I mean, I think aiming for about every quarter sounds good, and I think it's fine if there's some that are shorter or longer, that's also fine. Like, for example, I mean, bringing in John Weiss's mag PDE stuff would be great to have that prioritized for near future. And if that's a small release on its own, like that's also, we can kind of scope out what feels appropriate for a release to kind of balance the timeline and volume of.
Yeah, it's probably easier to not put too many items in each releases so that we don't feel stress about it, but at the same time there, forces us to reach some deadlines at some point.
Yes, yeah.
It's too easy to push it down the road.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Got a couple updates if anybody, are we closed on that topic for now? Yeah, started drafting a statement. Santi and Rona provided some input for website analytics. We've been using Google Analytics in the past, but there's a lot of problems with that. and moving over to plausible seems like a nice thing to do. So we'll put in a proposal to see if Software Underground is willing to basically let us use some slots for that. They've already allowed us to use the top level domain for SimPEG, which is great. But it'd be nice to pull the GeoSci sites over there. One of the things that it brought up is that we have a lot of subdomains with our websites, and each subdomain takes up a different slot. In some ways, it'd be better to have folders. Is that like it's all just one website, and I think it does. Rowan is saying too, that's a better approach for like searchability and website crawlers and stuff like that. So that's something we might want to consider like switching over to. And I'm pretty sure it should be straightforward to put up a redirect on the subdomains to like map us to the right folder. But that's a thing we can start to make some issues on. I meant to do that, but haven't gotten to it. But if that's something anybody's interested in helping tackle, it'd be great if we could put that on our list for evenings when you want to do some code, but it's not hard code. So not solving PDEs. So yeah.
Could that slow down the build if they all build at the same time, or it's smarter, it can build
They don't all
sections?
build at the same time.
Okay.
GitHub is smart enough to, or especially if you're using GitHub Pages, it's smart enough to do all of that. You've got more experience, Santi, than I do.
Yeah, I mean, if you post it on different, so you can post in different repos, and each one of them is their own GitHub pages. And basically you change like I mean, you need to assign the domain for each one of them, I think, and that's it. Yeah, or maybe you can set it globally. Actually,
I think you can,
Yeah.
because there's websites that showed up where I'm like, I don't think I did anything to make this work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you can set it globally. Actually, that's how, for example, when I make this, like my slides using Reveal, I
Yeah.
create a repo, I make the slides in there, and I just enable GitHub pages, and it's like santisoler.com / the name of the repo, and you have the slides right away.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty automatic. That's also one of the benefits. Like if anyone wants to create like a new page, you don't need to go to, oh, I need to configure the subdomain. Just create the repo, enable the GitHub pages, and that's it.
That's pretty slick. Awesome. That's all I
Yeah,
have.
more?
No, that's it for me.
Okay, I thought you said they had 4 things. It was a
Oh,
weird-
no. Yeah, no, more. Yep, that's it on my end.
Anybody's got anything for a newsletter, send it on to me.
That sounds
Sorry,
great.
not up
You
here.
have the picture from Verse?
I don't, yes.
Okay.
Oh, it's on the Burrs Slack, but yeah.
Oh, in person? Oh, I missed that. Okay, I'll grab it from there.
I guess 020 is a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, obvious.
Yeah, but if you were willing to provide a few points on Burrs, just kind of a quick summary, and we can write up, we owe Burrs a report, but it would be nice to actually post that somewhere too. In the past, we have had a SimPEG blog, but we haven't used that in quite a while, so we can figure out a place to put it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Joe, Dom, anything else?
Not here. That's it. All right.
All right. Good to see everyone.
Mhm.
Welcome to Colorado, Joe. Nice to see you there.
Back home.
Boo.
Yes.
See you guys
See ya.
soon.
To
Yeah.